Hi, everyone. This is Phil Travis, and this is our Thanksgiving week announcement here. EOU, History 445, Post-War Europe. It's week 9. This is Thanksgiving week, of course, holiday week, so this is a shortened week. This week, I'll try to make the announcement shortened as well. This week, we're reading from Jute, chapter 20 and 21. Our reading is actually quite fascinating. I think everyone will agree. The readings this week deal with the real dissolution of the Soviet Union, the creation of new independent states from the Soviet Union, which include, of course, Belarus, Ukraine, the independence of the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and so forth, the independence of Poland, the unification of Germany. And also this week we're going to be dealing with discussing the dissolution of Yugoslavia. And this week's video lecture deals with Yugoslavia. I discuss, generally about a 20-minute lecture, Yugoslavia during the 20th century, particularly since World War II, and particularly during the period of Tito's period of leadership in Yugoslavia. This week all we have is discussion. I've made the discussion shorter. Just make one post and one reply. It's fine if it's only one day of activity. It's a short week. Technically, our week ends this week because of Thanksgiving, Wednesday night at midnight. So, watch this announcement. Do the reading. It's not too long and it's very fascinating. I think you will find, there's numerous other, something like 14 new nations that are created out of the old, Soviet Union. Yugoslavia, of course, breaks into 6 different states. I think my numbers are right on the 14 from the old Soviet Union, but anyway, it's a pretty fascinating reading because we're talking about really the dissolution of the last of the old world empires, even though the Soviet Union was very much not the same as the Tsarist Empire, but sort of if you go back 100 years to the beginning of World War II, the map of Europe looks so different. You have the powerful, German Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Russian Empire. And of course, the Austro-Hungarian Empire was broken apart after World War I, the German Empire after World War II, and the Russian Empire ultimately formed as the Soviet Union falls apart between 1989 and 1991 with the overthrow of Gorbachev and the rise of Boris Yeltsin into the presidency. And in the midst of this, the map of Europe becomes much more sort of complicated with national identities carving out new states, independent states, some of which in some respects were almost new political creations, but most of which had very distinct and long-running nationalities that had a sense of being imperialized by the Soviet Union. And so we're really looking at a reshaping, a reforming of the map of Europe that really happens quite recently. And we are still today dealing with many of the ramifications of this. Of course, the fact that Western Ukraine and Eastern Ukraine are so different, the fact that Russia sees a very close allegiance with the Ukraine. Several of its most significant premiers were from the Ukraine. A lot of its manufactured goods came from the Ukraine. Western Ukraine, of course, tends to lean west. And we've seen this with the tensions recently over Eastern Ukraine and, of course, the annexation of the Crimea. So we still see a lot of these tensions today. And, of course, the Baltic states are part of NATO today. They are particularly, in a geographical sense, particularly vulnerable to Russia if Russia were to wish to seize those states again. So we still live with the legacy of the end of the Cold War, the collapse of the Soviet Union, as well as the breakup of Yugoslavia, which of course was an example of the third way, right? The Yugoslavia was an example of a non-Soviet communist state. And this is the factoid for this week. This week I have a lecture on Yugoslavia, and we have reading on Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia, after the death of Tito in 1980, Tito was the sort of communist leader that used a kind of cult of personality to sort of create the unity, or help to create the unity in Yugoslavia. And today, I'll try to make the factoid quick here. Today, of course, in the 1990s, Yugoslavia fell into civil war. There were brutal wars fought in places like Bosnia and, of course, also in Kosovo. Kosovo is a pseudo-state that, if it was internationally recognized, would become the seventh of the former Yugoslavian states. And it is, of course, the crisis in Kosovo, which is within Serbia, in which the Serbs were driving Albanian Kosovo people from Kosovo. And, of course, it was this that primarily led to the Clinton administration to intervene on behalf of the people of Kosovo. So the factoid is this. Today, the former Yugoslavia, unified largely after World War II and largely by Tito, the former Yugoslavia today is made up of 6 countries. The countries are Croatia, Montenegro, Macedonia, Serbia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Slovenia. But a 7th country, Kosovo, arguably would be the 7th country carved out of Yugoslavia. Kosovo borders Albania, and in 1990, Kosovo Albanians declared a Republic of Kosovo. Today, Serbia claims Kosovo to be part of Serbia, and Kosovo remains a sort of pseudo-independent state that is not fully recognized by the independent community, but nonetheless asserts its independence. And today, Kosovo remains a sort of pseudo-independent 7th state of the former Yugoslavia, formed largely at the impetus of Kosovo Albanians. All right, guys, email that factoid to me no later than Wednesday by midnight. Short discussion, just one post, one reply. You don't have to do 2 separate days. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the discussion forum, guys.